Hey IT friends, how's it going? It's me, Dean from Helpt. Wanted to talk a little bit today about identifying the level of service that you want to provide and how you can start to move up market with that to get better clients that really fit your help desk the way you want them to. I've mentioned before in some of my videos on my other channel that the average MSP at this point largely is following a pizza shop formula, where we might all do it a little bit differently, but ultimately, dough sauce cheese goes in an oven, comes out, go over to the point of sale, exchange for money, pizza. And so, given the fact that the basic recipe for running an MSP is so similar now and really so standardized, how do you, as that individual MSP in your market, find a way to stand out a little bit and draw in more customers to your pizza kitchen than the MSP next door? And obviously, there's lots of ways to do this, but I think one of the simplest, because it's your core business, is how you treat people. So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm sure wherever you live, you probably have, well, maybe not everywhere. I mean, I guess if you're in the middle, I got a friend in the middle of Saskatchewan where I think it's like an hour to get to any store. So, other than if you're one of those people, I think for most of us, you probably live somewhere where there's options, and there's a good chance there's two of something that you like. I had said recently on a webinar we had with Fort Mesa, if where you live there's more than one hospital, you probably immediately in your head have already which one is the good one. And we can say that about anything. If you are somewhere where there is a chain restaurant, or some sort of chain store, you probably in your head already know which one is the good one and which ones aren't. And there's a variety of factors that go into that. But given that these are chain establishments and they're largely offering the same product for the same price, well, it's not product and price that's making you say that. So why is one of those the good one? And in a lot of cases, it comes down to very soft factors about how we feel when we're at the good one. I know for me, I like the ones that have a less busy parking lot. I like the ones where I go in that are more well lit and more clean, not necessarily newer, but just more well lit and more clean. There's less of a sense of shabbiness. And most importantly, the ones where when I go into them, the staff just seem like they're not entirely resentful of the fact that I walked in the door. And that's why I bring this up. I think for a lot of cases, the bar is pretty low. So have you thought about that at your MSP? We tend to see this concept in service industries of suggesting that within our geography or our region, some element of what we do is best in class or best in the industry or best out of all our competitors. And that's fine. I think it's the right spirit. But getting back to our example of the chain store, well, if we've already identified that we can have the exact same company and the same brand have a location that we're all thinking of as being better, then does best in class or best in industry really mean anything? Or is really what we should be struggling to do is to just be the best we can be, period? Just treat our clients awesomely, always. Not just compared to our competitors, but even compared to ourselves. And so that's really what I'm suggesting here. And there's some things you can do that are pretty interesting if you start adopting this mindset of thinking. So for a lot of us, we tend to get our MSP started. We get our initial clients in. And when it's just us and maybe one employee, we're in this unique position where we're able to be not very scalable, but extremely flexible. And that causes us to think a certain way. And that's why you'll see a lot of solo MSP owners tend to have, a perception where they need to always be available. Their clients can text or call them directly. And a lot of that does have to go away as we scale. But the spirit of what made that special early on really shouldn't die at all as you grow. And in fact, you can use it to start moving a little bit up market and getting those better clients. So what do I mean by that? So you get to a certain point as you're starting to grow where your initial type of client that you're able to support, so maybe your first 2 or 3 clients is anybody that will pay you. But very quickly you grow past that because, you need to grow a business and you probably fall into some sort of standard format for a lot of MSPs that usually tends to be at that size. I don't know, 5 to 10 users roughly, probably somewhere like, 500 to, $1,000 a month minimum. And that works. And you get to a point where that represents a lot of your clients, and you've maybe even hired a couple of staff members, or you've used an outsourcing company like Help to help augment that. And you're like, hey, this is great. I've got a stable, viable business here, but it sort of what's next? And usually what's next is I need to start figuring out a way that I can attract a now different ICP than I was attracting before. So maybe that means now I want to start going after 20 to 50 seat clients. Or maybe we're very ambitious. We want to go after 50 to 100 seat clients, wherever you're at in your maturity model. And you realize that there are things that that level of business are likely to want from me that I'm not really sure I'm in a position to deliver. And if I go back to my pizza example, say a standard pizzeria that's just somewhere, maybe they think that to get to the next level I need to have a wood burning stove inside with an exotic ingredient. And they struggle with the challenge of, well, I can't really afford to rip out my stove and put it in a wood burning stove. And that exotic ingredient is not impossible, but it's going to be challenging to source and store appropriately and maintain my margins. How do I do this? And so folks either end up, basically borrowing money or overextending themselves to put these mechanisms in place, or they just never put them in place and stay with their current client base. And well, you're forgetting that a lot of times those clients you're perceiving as upmarket, they're perfectly happy eating your regular pizza. You just got to figure out a way to communicate to them that they're welcome. And they don't necessarily need that wood stove. They don't necessarily need that special ingredient. What they need is you, and they need the special way that you treat them. And it's a matter of being able to communicate that to them and scale that. And I think that's where a lot of folks will struggle, because we look at that as the only way I can solve that is by adding additional bodies to the problem. And I understand that I'm a proponent of them. There are process coaching platforms that will help you refine those processes, add efficiency, and get better at doing that with less people. But ultimately that math does still come down to, if I'm going to scale this level of service, I need to add more people. And loaded W-2 being added onto, your budget, that dips into profit. And well, if you had excess profit, then you would have already done that. So you probably don't have excess profit. You probably have just barely enough profit, which is why you wanted to go up market in the first place. So it's this really weird chicken and the egg situation where you've identified that you want to go after a better type of client. You've identified that while there might be little elements that you need to make a little more sophisticated in your offering, realistically, these upmarket clients probably would be happy with your base offering because it's a good offering. But how do I get there? Because I need their money to pay for the things to get me there. But once I'm there, what do I do? And that's where I think looking at companies like Helpt as a force multiplication strategy to help you start moving your service delivery up market are really helpful. Because, and this isn't just a Help thing, none of the companies that do what Help does cost as much as adding more loaded W-2s to your bench. And if you think about it in terms of actual rendering support capacity, and let's pause there and define what I'm talking about. For those that don't know, I'm an ITIL guy and I'm an SLA guy. So I want to redefine what I'm talking about around very general broad strokes ideas of an SLA. So an SLA or an SLO, service level agreement or service level objective, is a statement that you make either internally or in your agreement for a certain level of service that you're going to provide. In the case of like an ISP, that's probably just uptime. In our case, And MSPs, generally, that's a mixture of how quickly you're going to respond and how quickly you're going to resolve something. And a lot of folks tend to focus on the resolution because, well, resolution is results, and results are cool, it's tangible. But getting back to what we were talking about before with which of the business entities you have in your locale, where there's more than one, which one's the good one, it's not because they get you better results. They all get you exactly the same results. It's because of everything that happens up to and while they're delivering the results that make you pick that one. And so in an SLA, we're going to broad strokes this, but you have your response, you have your actual execution, and then you have the resolution, or when it's finished. And the most expensive thing you can do when you're trying to move up market, like we were talking earlier, is throw additional bodies at this problem, because the bodies can tackle all three of those SLA areas. What I'm suggesting here is that look outward towards, so the part that you're good at is executing and the resolution. Those are things that your existing team likely already has enough capacity to do. They're really good at it. The part that's probably dipping into their capacity is the response part. It's the first part. It's the triage and the dispatch. It's the initial communication. It's the intake. It's the 911 operator stuff. It's all of the things that come before your team starts working on it. That's the stuff that you really need to throw additional bodies at in order to go up market. You probably have enough capacity right now to work additional tickets. You don't have enough capacity to respond to additional tickets. And that's where I find a lot of MSPs get stuck in that chicken and the egg situation, like we talked about. They want to go up market, but they don't have the excess profit to add more bodies to allow them to continue to deliver the response they're already delivering to those clients, so that they can go up market and focus on them. Hire an outsourcing company. There's a lot of us, and there's different models of this. And depending on how your MSP works, at Helpt, we're very big on live answer, agnostic of your tool set. But some of our competitors who are awesome have other models. Like we have competitors that'll do full dispatch. We have competitors that won't talk to your clients at all, but will sit in a queue in your ticketing system and work tickets according to your SLA as they come in. Like there's so many different ways you can make this work for less than the cost of adding more bodies. And it starts to allow you to have that breathing room, right? To have that breathing room where you can start now focusing on moving up market and going after those clients that are going to be more aligned with where your MSP is today. They're going to be more profitable. And just in general, they're going to be less frustrating because that's where you're trying to move everything you're doing. These are the clients that are less likely to fight you about stuff like MFA or end user verification. These are the clients that are more willing to have, email protection and security awareness training because they have their own compliance they have to meet. So yes, please. These are the people who don't hit you up once a year with I just failed my PCI scan. Can you fix it? These are the clients that tell you, at the beginning of the year in your QBR process, which they attend, that, hey, we have to, do our PCI scan, this June. So please make sure 3 months in advance that we're ready for it. Like they're the clients that are just a little bit more ready to come play ball at a mature level that you want. Go get them. Go get those clients. And don't stress on, I don't have enough resources to add 3 or 4 more loaded W-2s to my staff to be able to do that. Hire someone like Helpt to be there to focus on an element of that SLA chain for you. Not all of it. Don't abdicate the entire SLA chain out to someone else when you're first getting started. That is a recipe for disaster. Pick a piece. My suggestion is response, but pick a piece. So there's response, plan, resolution, or response, working the ticket, and then the sort of the wrap up resolution, everything like that. Pick one and find somebody you like, that you can trust, that gels well with how you do business, and outsource some or all of that piece to them. Use the money and the time and the stress you free up to now take that capacity on your existing team of people and sell into those upmarket clients with your staff so that you can actually start producing the profit and the valuation that you want to produce. Your staff will be happier, and you'll have clients that are better aligned with you. Oh, and just tack on one thing at the end of this. One of the things I discovered in my time as a service and operations manager at MSPs, one of the first things these clients that are a little bit more upmarket are going to give you the impression they have a business need for is 24/7 support. And that's why a lot of folks will end up calling us because they say, hey, I want to start going after these clients who need 24/7 support. I can't offer that. Can you help us? And the answer, yes, we absolutely can. However, I do want to point out while my experience does not represent everywhere on earth, I feel fairly confident in saying that next level of slightly upmarket clients for you, those probably 50 to 100 seat clients, somewhere roughly in there, most of them don't really need proper 24/7 help desk. When they say they need 24/7 support, that's usually not what they actually mean. And I think that's worth pulling on that thread and finding that out. Because if you're finding that a lot of your prospects, their business is technically operational 24/7, but desktop computers they need you to do help desk for are really only your standard business hours. And then what they actually need is a number that their evening crew can call if there's an emergency and have an emergency response 24/7. That's usually what clients that are in that space actually need. And that's way less daunting, way less complicated, and way less expensive to provide. So I just mentioned that because if you hear the first part of this video, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go after these clients, you start meeting with them, you're like, well, they all said they want 24/7 support, Dean, and we can't do that. Don't worry, I've been there. You're right, you probably can't do that right now. You probably shouldn't do full 24/7 follow the sun support right now at this stage. But you could still offer 24/7 response and emergency response, whether you do that with a vendor like us or do it internally. That's pretty doable. And having that differentiator and being able to explain that can take a lot of the paralysis and fear out of, I can't take these clients on because I can't offer that. You absolutely can do that. You can do that even when you're pretty small. So don't let that stop you from taking your amazing service, going a little bit up market with it, and hopefully getting to that beautiful 54% GO in your services, which is that magical area that I wish every one of my MSP friends will live in perpetuity. Have a great Wednesday. And if you're stuck with any of this, just call Helpt. We got you.